Hey, are you looking to buy in Mukilteo in 2025? Well, I've created a video titled The Explainer, and this video will just do a quick dive in just in the city of Mukilteo to explain to people if this is a good time to buy, what's happening with the market, where is the projection, what do you think is going to happen here in the near future, and why. So take a look at this video, let me know what you think, and if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. My QR code is right there.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try to understand the entire U.S. housing market by putting one single zip code under a microscope, 98275 in Washington. You'd be surprised what the story of one small area can tell us about the big picture. So let's dive right in. So are you thinking about buying or selling a home in Washington? Maybe you're doing it right now. Endlessly scrolling through listings, trying to figure out, is this the right time to make a move? It's a huge question, and let's be honest, all the data out there can feel pretty overwhelming. That's why we're going to zero in. We're going to use the forecast for this one zip code to really see what's driving the market. By getting a handle on what's happening at this, micro level, we can get a much clearer picture of the bigger countrywide trend. Okay, first things first, let's get our bearings. The typical home value right now, as of this summer, in our little focus area of 98275 is a cool $943,760. Yeah, just under 950 grand. That's a hefty price tag, no doubt. But here's the real million-dollar question, or I guess the $943,000 question. Where is that price headed next? And here it is, the big reveal from the ReVenture app forecast. The prediction for the next 12 months? Prices are expected to go down. So how in the world did they get to that conclusion? Well, it's not a crystal ball or a lucky guess. It's all based on a really specific scoring system. This whole forecast, it really boils down to one powerful number. It's called the momentum score. Let's dig into what that actually is and how it works. So what exactly is this thing? The best way to think about it is like a credit score, but for a housing market. It takes a look at 5 key metrics, everything from how many homes are for sale to what mortgage rates are doing, and it crunches all that data into one simple score, from 1 to 100. A high score, that suggests prices are going to go up. A low score, well, you can probably guess what that means. And for our zip code 98275, the score is a 33. Yeah. Just 33 out of 100. That is definitely on the low side, and it's a pretty strong signal that the market's momentum is pushing toward a price decline over the next year. But why? What's actually dragging that score down so much? To figure that out, we have to look at the evidence. We're going to break down the why into 2 parts. First up, inventory, and what we can call seller pressure. Okay, first up, just look at the sheer number of homes for sale. Right now, you've got 53 homes on the market in this area. That might not sound like a lot, but it's nearly 46% higher than the long-term average of 36. That is a huge gap. It's a classic sign of oversupply, and it immediately gives buyers way more choices and more power. And when you have that much oversupply, what happens next? Sellers start to get a little nervous, and we're seeing that play out right here. The number of sellers cutting their asking price is more than double the historical average for this time of year. We're talking almost a third of all listings have had a price reduction. Normally, it's only about 13.5%. And the source material, it doesn't mince words on this. It says this high level of price cutting, and I'm quoting here, indicates that sellers are feeling more desperate than normal. When you see that many sellers slashing prices, it just creates this downward pressure on the whole market. And here is the final nail in the coffin for this part of the story. The typical home is just sitting there for 44 days. That's a lot longer than usual. And you got to remember, every single day a house sits unsold, it's costing the seller money and making them more and more antsy to just get a deal done. All right, so that's the supply side. Now let's pivot and look at the last 2 pieces of the puzzle. This part is all about recent price history and, crucially, affordability. Basically, how much it costs a buyer to borrow money. Now, this part's interesting because it's a bit of a mixed bag. On the one hand, if you look at the last year, prices have actually gone up a little bit by 1.7%. That's not amazing, but it's not bad, so it gets a pretty neutral score of 49. But, and this is a big but, look at mortgage rates. At 6.72%, they are way above the 5-year average. And those high rates are putting a serious cap on what buyers can afford. That's why it gets a really low score of 39. It's a major headwind for the market. Okay, so let's put it all together now. We've looked at 5 different data points. How do they all add up to give us that final kind of bleak score of 33? Well, when you lay all 5 factors out like this, the story becomes crystal clear. Look at this. The market is getting absolutely hammered by an oversupply of homes. That's why the inventory score is a rock bottom 15 out of 100. That pressure is then echoed in how long homes are sitting on the market and just how many sellers are being forced to cut their prices. Even the high mortgage rates are acting like a brake on the whole system. The only thing that's kind of holding its own is that small price growth we saw from last year. But it's just not enough. You've got 4 out of 5 key indicators all flashing warning signs, and that's what pulls the overall momentum score all the way down to 33. So what does this all mean? The data here tells a really clear story about supply, demand, and just plain old human psychology in one corner of the country. And look, while every single market is local, the things we've seen here, tons of inventory, buyers pulling back because of high rates, and sellers starting to feel the pressure, these are the exact same forces shaping markets all across the nation. And it leaves anyone who's looking to buy or sell with a really tough question. In a cooling market like this, what's the smarter move? Do you jump in now and try to negotiate a deal? Or do you wait and see just how far prices might fall? The data can give you the context, but in the end, that decision is all yours.